So let's begin by constructing the cover. So it's going to be a trifold album. So I've cut 3 of my main pieces. So these are cut at 8 and 9/16 by 6 and 5/16. If you want some easier measurements, that's all it is 8 1/2 and 6 1/4 with just a little extra 16th, just to give us some extra space when we come to put our pages in. So I've got 3 of those, and we're going to need 2 spines. So these are cut at 8 and 9/16 tall, and one of them is 1 1/8 and the other is 1 inch. So the way these will go down is a big piece, the widest spine, another piece, then the 1 inch one, and then our final piece. So let's start by covering one of the largest ones. I use the tape method, so this is just some construction tape, but you can equally use the paper method. There's plenty of tutorials online. I just find this quicker and you don't get any tearing of paper around your spine joints. So that's all I've done is I've taken my tape around 3 sides, pressing it on. I'm just going to pinch my corners so they stand upright, and then I just take my scissors and I cut towards the corner of my chipboard, and I'm going to do that on both sides here. So I'm just cutting away that V, turning it over and repeating. So what you're left with is the corner cut out. Then I just press down. I start in the center and just gently pinch the top, so I get a nice smooth top, and then press it all down. So again, gently pinch from the center and work out, and the same along the top. Just pinch it on so I get a nice neat edge there, and start in the center and press along. Now then, I haven't pressed it down properly, so what I'm going to do is show you, if you do get some bubbles, just take your scoring tool, bone folder, and just press it down, and that'll just take out any of those bubbles and give you a nice smooth finish. So on my first one, I've done 3 sides. Now on my second one, I'm just going to cut a piece just short of the top, and I'm placing it half on, and then I'm just going to flip it over. So I've covered the top. I'm going to do the same on the bottom. Flip it over and cover. Just tidy up that end of the chipboard. And on my third piece, I need to cover 3 again. So I'll try and do it quickly. So just pull up the length of tape, take one short edge and place it down the center. Make sure it's attached, pull extra tape, place it down the middle, and then through. So I'm just holding it for now. I don't need to go right to the edge, because that'll be covered when we come to do the spine. Just pinch the corners. Cutting down towards that chipboard corner again. And the last one. And same as we did before, we're just going to rub. I've done this so many times now, I can do it pretty quick, but just take your time. You want your cover to be neat. There we go. And the last one. And then just smooth it out. So we've got our 3 main pieces done. I now need to just cover the top and bottom of my spine. So again, I'm just going to take some of the tape. And just top and tail. You don't need to cover to the edge, so don't worry about it being perfect. That's all going to be covered when we attach them later on. So now we have all our pieces made, so I'm going to put them in the order. There we go. So now we just need to attach them. So to do that, I'm just going to take my tape, bring it down there, and I'm cutting about 1 inch extra on the top and bottom. So it's quite a long piece. And it will stick to itself, but don't worry. Okay. So I'm going to take all of them out of the way for a second. So I'm placing my tape down. And I'm taking the edge of my first cover and just putting it on so it's catching there and there. I'm going to take my first spine, which is my 1 1/1 1/8. I'm going to just turn it this way, it's just a bit easier for me. What I'm doing now is I'm lining up this corner and this corner with the corners of my cover, keeping them in place. And what I'm doing is bringing it up so the edge of my spine touches the tape, making contact, and then dropping it down. So when I open it up and tease it apart, what I've got is a double thickness gap there. So I can just bring my tape over. So just pull it nice and snug, not too tight, otherwise you will tear the paper, the tape. And that is our hinge. So now we need to bring in the one which I've just done the top and bottom of. And we're going to repeat. So if I do it this way, you may see I'm just taking, I'm not being too careful, I'm not measuring an inch or anything, I'm just going by eye, and then I'm just placing it down, and it gets easier here now because I've got further to line up, matching those corners again, also making sure it's in line here and here, lift it up, touch down onto the tape, and over. Press it down. Pull my tape up and over, and up and over. So we've now got our second one. So again, just an extra inch. Let's place it down. So now I'm taking my 1 inch spine, lining up the corners, lifting everything up, taking it over, and that's done, and it's just the last one now. And the last one, making sure that you're lining up the uncovered side. And there you have all your hinges made. We're just going to cover up the gaps. That's all I'm doing is covering up, make sure I'm going from tape to tape. And the final two. Just bring in my Teflon tool. Burnish it all in. And then it'll fold in from this side and this side. And that's your trifold cover made and ready to go. So I'm going to put this aside, and I'm going to grab my trimmer and my cardstock, and we'll start making the pages. So for the next step, we're just going to cut our pages and our pockets. So we're going to cut all the cardstock. So I've got 10 sheets of cardstock here, and if I'm honest, I don't think I'm actually going to use all of them. I'm going to see if I can use a lot of my scraps to do the smaller bits. And I've got my pencil just to mark each page so we know where we are. So I'm going to start with my essential flaps. So both of these are going to be 8.5 inches tall. So I'm going to grab both sheets here. I'm going to cut them at 8.5. So by cutting them together, I'm just making sure that they're both the same height when it comes to putting them into the book. So I'm going to keep these. Okay. So this is the 8.5 side. The first one I'm going to cut at 7.5 inches. And I'm going to mark this one F1. which means flap 1. And then I'm going to flip it over, upside down, and put it off to the side. That way then, when I come to pick them all up later, they'll still be in order. And my mark will be facing up. So the second one is going to be 7¼ inches. And this one is called flap 2, so I'm just going to mark it F2, turn it over, and put it into my pile. So now I'm going to cut my central pockets. So I've got a piece of cardstock now. So I'm going to cut 2 of them at 3 3/4. By 7 3/4. So this is my central pocket, and I said I need 2 of them. Turn it upside down, off to the side. So again, 3 3/4. By 7 3/4. Again, central pocket. So now I've got this piece left over. I'm going to make the flap for it. So this is now going to be 6 1/4 by 3 1/2. So this is my central pocket flap, CPF, central pocket flap. And I need 1 more. So let's cut it at the short side. So 3 1/2 by 6 1/4. So this is my second central pocket flap. So now from this piece, I'm going to start decorating my pages. So this will now be page 1's pocket. And this is going to be cut at 4 inches. By 5 1/4. So I need 2 of these. Can I get? Yeah, I can get another one out of this. So 5 1/4 by 4. So these 2 are now my page 1 pocket. So P1P. Turn it upside down and off to the side. We'll get some of these scraps out of the way. So now we're going to cut 2 of the next ones. So I'm going to grab 2 of my sheets at the same time. Because page 2 and page 4 have both got the same pocket on. So I'm going to cut these at 6 3/4. By 7 1/4. So this is page 2 pocket and page 4 pocket. Turn them upside down, off to the side. So now I need to do a nice long pocket for page 3. So I'm going to need another sheet because I need the length. So I'm going to score it at cut it at 3.5. Now if you want this to be a wider pocket, cut it at 4, 4.5. The width doesn't matter, but the length does. So it needs to be 9.5. So this is page 3 pocket. Turn it upside down. Now the next piece is an optional one. With page 3, it's a nice long pocket down the page, which you can put really big photos into. But if you want to make it so that you've got 2 smaller ones, we're going to put a divide in the center. So this you don't have to do. I'll show you just in case you want to. So for this, I'm going to need 2 pieces, 2.5 inches and I've cut this at 2 inches because I'm going to put it in the middle now. They need to be 1 inch long. So they were 2.5 by 1. So I'll just use some of my scraps for those. Now I'm going to have a look through some of my leftover pieces, and I should have some nice big pieces here. We're going to cut our inside cover pockets. So everything we've cut so far will go in the middle, which is our main piece. And now these are going to be the pockets as our folio opens. So I've got 2 pieces here. It obviously came off one same flap. So we're going to start by cutting them at 7.25. So I'm cutting both at the same time here. 7.25 by 3.5. The 3.5, if you want to make longer pockets, you can, but it's the 7.25 which is important. So again, here 7.25. And this time I'm going to cut them at 2.5. So I'm going to mark the smallest one as pocket 1, so P1, and pocket 2, pocket 2. So they now have gone into a separate pile with me because they're going to go onto my inside covers. So now we're going to bring in our scoreboard. And I've got my tape ready as well. So we're going to start now scoring. So because I put my pages upside down each time, when I flip them over, they're going to be in the order I want them again. So I'm going to put them on the left here. Move everything else out of the way. So I got my flap 1. Let me put my central pockets to the side. So flap 1, I've got the 7.5 across the top. And I'm going to score at half. And 1.25. So flap 1, half, 1.25. And again, I'm going to turn it upside down and put it off to my left. That way then they'll be in order when I come to stick them again. So now flap 2, again, we're going to score that 1/2 inch there. And this time, we're going to score at 1. And flip it over. So now I've got my central pockets. Now this is going to have a little bit of a gusset to make it a nice deep pocket. So I'm going to score at half. and 3/4 down the short side and the other short side. 1/2, 3/4, and 1/2 and 3/4 down one of the long sides. So that'll be my pocket then. So again, same on my second pocket, 1/2, 3/4, 1/2, 3/4, 1/2, and 3/4. So those are my two central flaps, central pockets. These now are the flaps. These are simply going to be 1/2 and 3/4 down the long side, 1/2 and 3/4 down the long side. So that's our flaps and our central pockets done. We're now moving on to the pockets for the pages. So I've got my page 1 pocket here. So I'm going down 1/2 inch on my long side and both of my short sides. Flip it over. So down one long and both shorts. Now my page 2 pocket. Now be careful of this one because it looks square, but it's actually 1/2 inch shorter. So on my 7 1/4 on the top, I'm going to do 1/2, rotate it 180 degrees and do the other side. And then with my 6 3/4, I'm just going to do it down one of them. So same again, with my longer side along the top, I'm going to do both sides, 1/2 inch, and the other side 1/2 inch. And with my short one along the top, just down one side. So that's my page 4 pocket. And my page 3 pocket, this is my nice long one. Just 1/2 inch on the long side and both of the short ones. And then those optional pieces, you're just going to score them in half the long way. So that's my center all done again. My inside cover pockets. Let's start with pocket 1. Let's do it in order. Pocket 1 is both short and one long. So I'm keeping these separate from my main pile. And the same with pocket 2, both short and one long. And that's all our scoring done, so we can get rid of our scoreboard. So let's flip these now back over, and you see flap 1 now is back on the top, ready for tape and scoring. So I've got my score tool. I like my Teflon one because it won't mark the black, and I've got my 3/8, I think it's 3/8 score tape, and my precision scissors. So let's start with the pockets. We'll get them out of the way. So these now are the inside cover pockets. Let's move our main body to the side. So I've got pocket 1, and then pocket 2 is going to be higher up. So we've got like a stacked pocket. So with pocket 1, I'm taping inside that 1/2 inch score line along 3 sides. And then with pocket 2, we're actually only going to do the 2 short sides. So when you're putting a tape, just make sure you're not going over that score line. If you see, it's within that score line. I'm not putting tape along the bottom here. We'll have a little trick later on with these pockets, which will help you decide if you want deep or shallower pockets. Okay, so now when I turn it over, hard to see the score lines. What I'm going to do is cut towards that cross and then angle it slightly to the left and cut off. That just helps when it comes to scoring and folding later on, that they don't meet. If I cut straight across, chances are we'll have a little overlap there. So by just making it a bit sharper, that'll prevent it from crossing. And then I'm just cutting towards that score line, just mitering the corner there. Turn it over, might see a bit better. And just cutting it off there. Okay, so it just reduces some bulk by doing that. The bin ready. So that's pocket 1. And I'm going to do the same. Cut. Take it off sharper. Cut. And cut. And then just take off some of the bulk from the top. Now page 2 is slightly different. I'm still going to take off some bulk from the top and bottom. From both sides of the top. Now the bottom is not going to be made into the regular pocket. So what I'm going to do, here's my score line here. But I'm actually going to just come in a little bit, not too much. Can you see? And then cut it off like that. So I'm just coming at a slight angle. So there's my score line. I'm just angling it a little bit and then cutting it off. Because what that'll do is it's going to slide into pocket 1. If I cut it straight, it would meet here and block. So by just angling it slightly, I'll be able to slide that in a little bit easier later on. So again, cut and cut. So angle and off, angle and off. So those are my pockets made. I can now fold pocket 2 flaps back. Now you might see that score line on the bottom I haven't touched. That's going to be a guide. So it's not a fold, it's just going to help me line up later on. And the pocket 1, we're just going to score all 3. There, so pocket 1 and the pocket 2s off to the side. So now we're going to bring in our main pieces, for the main part of the folio. So flap 1, here's my 1/2 inch. I'm just going to put tape all the way down. Finish. So that's flap 1. So I do all my tape first, and then I'll go back and score and cut later on. Page 2. So this is central pockets. So we've got, to be careful here, let me see if I can show you. We've got our 1/2 inch and that gusset bit there. So just make sure you're in that 1/2 inch bit. And I'm just putting tape between the 2 inner score lines. So I don't need tape down that because that's all going to be cut off. Turn it over. Oh, I think I've picked up another pocket. So just between the inner score lines. Flip it over. So these now are my flaps. Central pocket flap. Page 1's pocket. And the second one. Page 2's pocket. So we've got 3 sides here to cover. 1, 2, and 3. And then page 4. I know it's strange to be doing page 4 before 3, but it's just easy because page 2 and 4 are the same. And page 3. So now these 2 bits are our optional bit. Turn them over. And you want to put it each side of that score line, making sure you're not covering the score line. Okay. So that's it. We're done with our tape. Again, every time we flip it over, it's in the same in the correct order. So now flap 1 is pretty straightforward. We're just going to fold it over and fold it over. Now I'm not scoring too much with this because we want that 90 degree. We're not looking for that 180 degrees like that. We're looking for that. So you don't need to score harshly here, because you want it to be upright. And the same with flap 1. So as you're doing this, you're actually burnishing down that tape at the same time. So it's just a light score here, because we want it to be like that. Then this is the central pocket. Now I'm going to have to try and catch the light here for you, because what we're going to do is take away a section from each corner. Now the way I do that is, I look for that little square in the center. Now I want to keep that intact. So I'm going to cut diagonally towards the corner of the square, but I'm actually going to keep that square intact. So I'm going to cut up this side of it, cut up this side, and then chop off the excess. So you can see that square is still there. And now I'm going to cut towards this other corner here. Okay. So this is just going to be a little tab just to hide the corner. You can chop it off if you want, but I quite like to keep it so it just hides when that corner comes together, gives you a nice corner. Okay, but you can then just miter it a little bit to make it fit a bit easier, like that. So again, on the other side, if I cut up each side of that square and just miter a little bit off it, I can cut it out. Okay, and then just cut off the diagonal. So you can see I've just kept that square into a little tab. Let's just fold the bits away. So now as I fold it, we've got that little 1/4 inch gusset. Same on this side. So then those two tabs will just fold in. And then our bottom, like that. So that's how our pocket will come together, with that little tab just hiding any gap there. So that's my first central pocket. So I'm going to do the same again. So you'll actually see how quick it is when you're not having to explain as well. So I'm actually mitered it in that first cut. Rather than going up straight, I just went diagonal straight away. Same here, I'm going to come diagonal. Cutting off that tab and off. Oh, and what I didn't do was just miter off. I don't think it's actually that important with the central pockets, but as we're doing it, and that's my second gusset pocket, which is going to go in the center. So we're going to come to our central pocket flap and just going to score both into that U shape. So we're going to stick it down and it'll open up, and just take away the corners. And again with this one, we're just folding both of them the same way to make that U shape. Page 1 pocket, we're just doing that to the corner, twist a little bit, and the top. So we're folding, folding and folding. And the same on the second one. Okay, so now we move on to our big diagonal pocket. So I'm going to bring in my ruler and my pencil now. And on page 2, I want my diagonal to come in this way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure 4.5 inches from this corner, a mark, and coming down on that score line, I'm going to mark 4.5 inches. And draw a line. I should have put my longer scissors. So I'm cutting away. At that angle. I probably should have done that before the tape, so I've wasted some tape, but never mind. So now, on page 4, I want it to go the other way. So I'm measuring 4.5 inches from the score line across. And just fold it. There we are. So 4.5 inches. And again, 4.5 inches down the side. I'm going to join them both up. And I'm going to cut down that line and then just cut off to make a tab. And again, just like I've done with all the other corners, I'm just going to angle the bottom and the top. And that. So there we have our diagonal pockets ready to go. Just score them. So just the main thing to remember with these ones is when you're doing a 4.5 to go in the opposite directions along the top so that you've got them come in at the different angles. 2 and 4. Number 3 is just a straightforward pocket, so we're just trimming off the top and the 2 angled corners. And now, as I said, this bit now is optional. If I was to put that now on my page, what I've got is a nice big long pocket, so I can put my 5x7 photos in. But if I was going to put my 6x4s, they would all just fall to the bottom. So this little trick will just keep them at the top. So what I'm going to do is, let me open it up. I'm going to mark halfway. Come this way. So it's 8.5, so I'm going to 4.25 inches. So 4.25. I'm just lining those up. So I've just drawn a line down the center. Now I'm going to take these 2 1-inch thick pieces, and I'm just gonna trim off the corners so they're that shape. So just fold in half, and on that corner and that corner. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold them half, and I'm going to stick them with those scored sides together like that, and that's just going to make a little divide. But if I took it up to that edge, I won't be able to get my decorative paper in, so I'm going to bring it right down to here, and that'll just give me a little bit of extra room to get my decorative paper under later on. So I'm not coming all the way down to here, and I'll show you why in a second. I'm just lining it up to that pencil line, and then bringing the other one to match it. So you'll see now what we've got is two separate pockets, but when I bring this now, we're going to get a lot of bulk here. So I'm actually going to, this is why I said not to bring it all the way up to that score line. We're going to cut out a notch, a little triangle from there. So when we come here now, they're not going to overlap. So I've still got a little bit of overlap, so I can just trim it off either this or either of my flaps. Okay, so that is totally optional, but it will help when you put it onto. If I grab flap one, it's not going on flap one. If I just grab because of the size, you can put your photos in there, landscape, and they won't drop down to the bottom because we've got that little divide there. So that's page 3. And that's all our pages and our pockets ready to go. So next job will be assembling.